graded cards. Hey guys, just want to talk a little bit about graded card companies today and which ones there are and why I choose to use which ones I do use. First of all, what is a graded card? That's when you take a normal card like this and you get it put into a case like this, but not one that you can just put it in a case because it is sonically sound welded. I don't even know what the term is. Ultrasonic welded. Yeah, it's tamper proof. I don't know what you call it, but yeah, you send it off to a company that is very reputable, and they have a team of people who grade it, put the conditions of what the card is. I sound really stupid when I talk about this, but yeah, you see this one here, MNT, based in Ontario, Canada here. They put 4 different subgrades. They tell you what each condition criteria of the card meets to get an overall grade. And collectors go for the higher graded cards to have the best of the best collection, the best condition collection. And yeah, people also sell these. They buy and sell these, and it's much easier to display them. It preserves them. Yeah, there's a lot of pros, and I don't want to say cons to grading, depending on who you ask, but I'm a big fan of it, and I'm going to dive right in. This is going to be a really boring video since it's mostly spreadsheets and just math and data, but I'm going to explain a little bit about all the companies. I'm going to compare all the price points that they ask for you to grade with them. I'm going to compare all of the most recent sales data from eBay sold listings for each company, each grade that they offer, and each of their service levels, and compare them all, and then also compare the turnaround times, and then compare all the companies to each other to show you why I decide to choose some of the companies that I do. And to be honest, I was actually blown away since some of this data that I did was a little newer, since I usually the last time I did this, I only looked up 2 or 3 companies, and this time I looked up all of them. So prepare yourself for a long-winded talk video that's probably pretty boring, but yeah, this is, if you just want to see the statistics and the data, just scroll to the very end. I'll try to pause frame on just the spreadsheets for each of the companies. But yeah, I'll dive right into the spreadsheets and all that data and all that news and jazz now. Anyways, see you on the computer. All right, jump over to the computer here. I got a map of North America started, and if we zoom in, we can see I'm the little red dot way up at the top. So we'll start with the big guys that everybody seems to know. PSA, Professional Sports Authenticator. They have over 40 million cards graded. They have over 1 million cards just in their backlog alone right now, apparently. And yeah, they are in New Jersey and started back in 1991, almost as long as I've been around. And then Beckett Grading Services, they're way across the states in good old California. They started in the 90s as well, 1999. But that's just for their card grading. They've been around a lot longer doing the magazine and price guides and stuff like that since 1984. They have over 12 million items, apparently, and that's why those 2 guys are looked at as the biggest. Another one that's been around for a long time is SGC, Sports Card Guarantee, down in Florida. They started in 1998, and unfortunately I couldn't find out what their total population report system is, but they do have, I think, a verification option on their site that you can look up the cards. They're the ones with the little black border inside the slabs, so you can easily identify their cards from a distance if you saw slab cards at a show or something. And then we'll move right to their neighbor, GMA. I'm not sure what GMA stands for, but they started in the early 2000s, 2003. And again, no option for a pop report with these guys, not even a verification system. They're known as one of the cheaper entry level, I wouldn't say entry level, but yeah, one of the cheaper options to grade cards. They only have 2 rates, so you're not going to get slammed with all these giant fees and wait times like everybody else. And then if you jump up You got CGC. These guys have been in the game since 2000 with comics, but just recently got into the cards. I think 2019, 2020, just in the last year or two. And yeah, just in that little bit of time, they've already dented it huge. If you can look on eBay sold listings, they have thousands of sold listings already, some in the higher numbers. So they're kind of already putting dent in the scene compared to some of the other guys who've been around for a lot longer. Yeah, they're in New Jersey, still not far from me too, so not far from me. And then we'll jump up to Ontario, the guys who are close to me. So KSA, they started around in the 90s, 1996. They're just in Kitchener. They have a verification option to look up their cards, but not a population report. So I couldn't tell you how many cards they actually have, but they have been grading for a long time, not just cards, but they got coins, and they grade, well, not grade, but they authenticate other sports memorabilia and stuff like that. And then the other guys here in Ontario is MNT. I don't know how long exactly they've been around, but I could see a forum post as early as 2017 showing that they're getting cards from these new companies. So that tells me they've been at least, 4 years here. And yeah, they do have a population report system where you can look up the population of your cards, how many they've graded. And yeah, the last few batches I've gotten, they seem to go in a sequential number order system between all cards, between Pokemon, basketball, hockey, stuff like that. And the last batch I got, the cards were over 60,000 in numbers, so they've got at least that in their population, so maybe more, maybe less, not sure how they number it, but that's what I see in my batches that I get. And anyways, jump all the way over to the spreadsheets. This is where it gets a little boring. I'll try to rip through it pretty quick, but yeah, I looked up over 100 cards, at least 100 cards for each grading company, if not 100, until as early as January. I didn't want to look at back further than that since the card prices fluctuate so often, and I didn't want to get inaccurate data. So for each company, I looked up every single grade available and 10 for cards for each one. The most recent sale listings, compared that to the trading card game, the TCG value that is widely acceptable across the hobby. I use them over Troll and Toad or face-to-face, stuff like that. They even have that app that you can scan the cards, which is really nice as long as you make sure you're getting the right symbol and stuff like that. They do bring you the I wouldn't say fair market value, but fairly accurate market values. There's a lot of sellers on that platform as well, so you can genuinely trust their pricing schemes. I wouldn't say schemes, but yeah, standards. So I compared the eBay sold to their trading card, the TCG value raw, but also against the value of what each tier you could get with each grading company is versus what the grade you could get back is. So if you were aiming for 7s and ups and 8s and ups or 9s and ups, you can do a general average of what your return would be on not just those cards. The return wasn't what I was looking for, but the statistic percent of what each average goes up by. And this can change by adding new cards in here now that the formula is put in stone. But I just wanted to show you for each company what the quickest times would be and the smartest options would be to choose for each of these. So for PSA, their economy was obviously their best option, but if you look way over here, their economy, normally 42 days, current backlog of 6 to 8 months. So you're looking at 266 total days. So that 599, that 600% return, it sounds pretty good, but if you look at it compared to these numbers here, you're only at 57.9% increase there, but you're 1.6 times quicker getting it back with, I didn't even do that, shit. You're a little quicker getting it back with the regular service, so you can get that one back 1.6 times quicker. So that brings you up to 92% from your 57.9% originally. So all these numbers here are compounded against your wait times, your backlog for all these companies. Takes a little long to load since there you go. For all these companies, I showed what is the best option. Obviously, your black label for Beckett's going to win every time. But I'll break it down. I looked up every single company. So for Beckett, I looked up over 200 cards. Well, not over 200, over 100 cards. It was really hard to find values when you're getting down to the 1s and 2s and stuff. I stopped at the 5.5 since I was already in the negatives here. You'll see that in the total. But I looked at the 10 most recent for each grade and then did the averages. You might think that sounds stupid, but there's a reason toward it by the end. So when you get way over here, this sheet here shows you what the best option for each of these companies would be for solo drop-offs. If you just did one-time drop-off and didn't worry about the wait times, obviously PSA and Beckett, your economy, not worried about their backlog of 6 to 8 months, that's going to return the highest percent. Whereas maybe not so much. CGC is pretty good with their 10s as well, but if you compare their 9s and 8s and 7s and 6s compared to Beckett's, Beckett's going to win in the long run. PSA is going to win in the long run. But, you know, PSA, after you get down to the 7s and 8s and stuff, not so much. It's almost smarter to sell raw if you're only going to make that much money. Or if the value's just there, if you're deciding on selling. But anyways, I did this for every single company here, and this is all relatively useless information unless you apply it to stuff like this. If you're trying to get 7 or 8s or 9 pluses, I didn't include Beckett's black labels because if you know you're having a 9 or a 10 plus, send it to Beckett. Try to get that black label. Your return's over 1,000 no matter what if you get a black label. Whereas this is what your averages are if you get, you know, a few 7s, a few 8s, a few 9s if you're going for 7s, or if you know everything's mint and you know you're getting 9 pluses. It looks better to get PSAs, but this is all for single drops and no wait times. Now, if you compare all those best times available right here, and you're going for 8 plus average, your PSA would be your economy drop off, but that's 266 days total. That's where you get your best increase on a 1 day drop, not including compounding against each other. And if you compare all the other companies with their increases, so Beckett is 270 days, not far off with their wait time. They're not far off with their value you return if you're averaging 8 plus. But then CGC looks like they're in 3rd place. But then what's awesome about CGC, they're only a 60-day total versus 266. You can do that almost 5 times as much. So that's 207% increase on one, 642% increase on this one. And it yields you more. That's why I'm not afraid to use MNT. But then, did you see this number right above it? Doesn't that look crazy? Over 2,000%. So GMA promotes that they return their cards in 15 days total. Now, up in here in Ontario, that's going to be a little impossible with the shipping and all that stuff, but say I was local and I did drop off and I picked up and dropped off and picked up and dropped off every 15 days. I can do that quite a few times, almost 15 plus times, over 15 times. At 144% increase. Yeah, it's a lot less than 279%. In fact, it's almost half the value. But in the long run, look what it gets you. Isn't that crazy? But this is why it does change up a little bit. So if you go back over to the maps that I created here, and you look up at those averages that I just talked about, you can look up what they compound into, what I was showing. So if you waited each time, you're going to get up there. It gets a little crazy, right? But this is where it all changes. That information changes right here. So all the raw cards that I looked up the average of the TCG value for each of those for averages 8 plus, all the different cards. For GMA, your last batch of cards that have sold for 8s, 9s, and 10s, the average TCG value of those cards is only $10. That's USD price, but look at what it is at PSA and Beckett. So the average card that sells for the two big guys are your best cards that are in the Pokemon hobby for TCG values. Whereas GMA is your lowest. But you're safe if you submit cards that are in between the, $3 and $15 range with GMA, a good batch of those, you're going to return values that are 144%, which are quite significant if you did that every 15 days. You'd get numbers that you would never be able to achieve with PSA. Even if you did it because with PSA, if you did the same thing with those lower value cards, you're going to lose money right off the hop versus what it costs you just to grade with them. You're not going to send in a $3 card that's going to sell for $10 to $20 card, $10 to $20. It's going to cost you more just to grade that. So stick with the lower end, or not the lower end, but these cheaper end guys for the cheaper cards, and go with the leaders for the bigger cards. This data right here makes me want to try out KSA, since compounded in the same time period with MNT, they're already making more value even without compounding in with that comparison of time. And after you compare that time, you're over 1,000% if you do it that many times. You won't get there with MNT, not even close. But even with MNT in that time period, you're still 359% versus PSA's 279% if you waited the whole 266 days and did the same option every single day. So yeah, just wanted to leave that there. And yeah, everybody thinks I'm probably MNT biased since I have so many MNT cards, but hey, I like to promote Ontario, so yeah, I'm gonna maybe hopefully try KSA out and see how it goes there too. But these are the real-time values of what the most recent sales are for each of the card grading industry companies. So hopefully this data actually means something to you, since some people might think that, oh, I have a $1,400 card and it's going to be worth 100+% more, so you're going to double up on it. Well, just because they're listed doesn't mean they're selling. These are what's selling actually in January. It might change for next month, but this is what I could find to help me make my decision, and maybe you guys might find it valuable to make your decisions too. Anyways, have a good one. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't like it. I don't really care.